Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. We're going to cover everything. We're going to cut through all the propaganda, give it to you straight from left, right, and center. The opinions are what counts. Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And we've got a great closing year-end show for you today. We have the Walker brothers back together. Dave Walker, former Comptroller General, and General Mookie Walker. Gentlemen, brothers, welcome back to the show. As always, my co-host Joe Visconti. Gentlemen, happy to have you with us today. So,
happy
General, I'm going to start off with you, General. I mean, this is sort of a year-end summary. I mean, we're talking about everything Donald Trump and the Trump administration accomplished in its first year. And we're going to look a little bit ahead to 2026. But it is interesting. You know, the various networks are given ratings on Trump. And it's as predictable as beaches in Florida and snow in the Northeast. General, Insider Advantage has Trump approval hovering right at 50%, when a lot of the other polling averages are lower. Even Real Clear Politics, which is pretty good, has been in the mid-40s. But, General, what do you make of that? I mean, how would you rate Trump's first year here?
First of all, we've learned a lot of things in just the last week. That Trump was right about the cheating in Georgia for the 2020 election. Then we also just learned today that that the economy is rising really rapidly, 4.3%, then third, all sorts of things we're learning that Trump is doing right. Our gas is down. The gas prices are down. Grocery prices are down. Wages are going up. We are getting both. Well, if I were still in the military, I still wouldn't get it because generals didn't get it. But anybody, colonel on down or Navy captain on down, got $776 in bonus from the money that's being brought in from the tariffs. We have people who were poo-pooing the tariffs, saying that it was going to cause inflation on CNBC, and all of a sudden admitting, okay, we were wrong. It's actually helping. Everything is turning out gravy, and all of a sudden, and the latest polling has the president rising up in approval rating. The left is going to try to do anything they can, not, even including saying, "Oh, the Kennedy Center, he can't put his name on it." Anything they can do to try and bring him down, but he is a train that cannot be stopped.
Well, I could not agree more with you, General. Your brother, David Walker. Again, welcome. I love your jacket, Dave. I mean, it's so apropos here for the holidays. Give me your assessment. These polling, what the media, Trump, et cetera. What are your thoughts?
Brother from another mother and a different kind of general, Comptroller General. But in any event, listen, I think from an economic standpoint, obviously the numbers have been very good for Trump as compared to the last administration. No question about that. The only thing that has not been as good is unemployment. And a lot of that is getting rid of a lot of government jobs. The private sector has been doing okay. Obviously he's done a great job with regard to border, and now it's time to be able to do immigration reform now that we've gotten control of the border. He's facilitated a number of peace agreements. He's got to be careful, though, because the people care more about domestic issues than international issues. He doesn't want to make the same mistake that George H.W. Bush made, where he went from 90% approval rating to losing re-election because he didn't focus on domestic issues. Obviously, his signature achievement from a legislative standpoint was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And affordability is a real issue. And the Republicans are not doing a good job on communicating with regard to affordability. And they better step up on that, okay? A lot of Americans don't understand that when things go up, they normally don't go down, with the possible exception of some food prices and energy prices. And what's happening now is that we have slowed the rate of inflation That's different than reducing prices. And so, language needs to, from the president, needs to match the facts. Last thing, the president will not be on the ballot in November of 2026. And he's a big turnout artist. He's trying to do what he can through going on the road to try to help with regard to enthusiasm and turnout. But, time will tell whether or not that's effective or not.
Yeah, your assessment's spot on. The economy grew 4.3%, as the general said in Q3. That was much higher than estimates, and a lot of that was we exported more and imported less. Joe, you've seen the numbers. How do you assess 2025?
This is a strange thing. I've been studying this. I'm not an economist, but I'm a regular Joe. And the fourth quarter is going to come in lower, of course, GDP, because the government was shut down by the Democrats for a month. So those numbers will hit January, I guess, at some point. And the Democrats will run with that, saying, see, the economy's faltering. But something that's an anomaly is gold and silver. Beyond their industrial use, gold is hit 4,500 this week. Silver's at almost 72. Last year, this time it was 28. And so I have a little theory about that. I say, well, how could the stock market be going up, inflation be going down, and people still investing in silver and gold at these rates? And part of me said last night, I had an epiphany. I said, wait a minute, half of this country, these Democrats are so crazy, even if they're wealthy, and I live around many wealthy Democrats, as I'm sure the rest of you do in California, Virginia. And even though they may be investing in the stock market, I believe you've got half of these Democrats, half the country, thinking that there's going to be a recession that's not coming, and betting against it. Even if they're playing the market, they still politically in their mind believe it's going to crash, it's going to crash. And if they think that hard, and that's half of America, they would buy gold and silver even at higher prices. There's no sense. I'd love to hear Dave's take on this. There's no sense in gold and silver going as high as they are while and you can say the dollar's faltering, but I don't believe that either. So you've got the market up, energy down, inflation down. Do we need Dave Walker to describe to answer this, because I have no idea.
Dave, take it away.
Let me jump in. There is growing concern about escalating debt burdens, not just in the United States, but also in other major countries around the world. There is growing concern that ultimately, if the United States does not change course, that it will have a debt crisis, a failed debt auction, which would have serious adverse economic and other consequences. Central banks around the world are hoarding gold. In addition, silver is a critical component for a number of different things in today's tech-driven world. Whether it be phones, whether it be certain types of weapon systems, whether it be solar panels, etc. And so I think what's happening is a number of people are allocating a meaningful percentage of their investments to gold and silver as a hedge against uncertainty about the value of the dollar over time. And I must say, I'm one of them.
Well, I mean, you're right about that. And the deficit did grow again this year, despite all the positive things that have happened with GDP going up. Unemployment's up slightly, but 4.6% is still historically a low number. In general, we did have more exports and less imports. The tariff revenue arguably has had some success. There's still, I think, some room for interest rates to come down. As those interest rates come down, that's going to reduce the interest expense, which right now is running $1 trillion a year. General, there is some worry beneath these numbers, but I think the Trump administration, they've got a skilled economic team, but the problem with that is it takes Democrats to cooperate, and these Democrats are not in a cooperative mood right now. When you go back to your polling numbers that we talked about, Democrats, and this is in Congress, their approval rating is 8 18%. Even at CNN, they're polling them at 24%. Now, the Republicans aren't a whole lot better. They're at like 30% the CNN poll and, mid 30s in a lot of other polls. So, no, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're not liked in Congress right now. And we got midterms coming up. General, what do you make of that? That is a little bit of a concern.
Well, one thing coming up at the end of January is another potential shutdown. And so the GOP has a chance right now because thankfully they were skillful enough to make it so that the Democrats have reduced leverage if a shutdown can come up again, because more or less 85% of the government is already funded full year through out of different minibuses. So VA, military construction, agriculture. And so right now, if the GOP can get their stuff together and get a few more bills across before the end of January, then it'll make it suicidal for the Democrats to try and obstruct and do another shutdown, because it will become it'll be a backlash. It'll be a referendum on the GOP's governance or Democratic obstinance, and we can turn it into Democratic obstinance. And so they have to get some bills across in the next month or so in order to pretty much trap the Democrats in a corner.
Joe, is that realistic that the Democrats will come to the table? I mean, I thought the last mission was a suicide mission, and it proved, if you're a Democrat, you liked it. If you're not, Republicans like what Trump was doing. The Democrats like the resistance. It pushes the Democrats further to the left, which is the direction they're going.
In 08, I ran against John Larson here for Congress as a Republican, and the approval rating at the time, this is where McCain was on the ballot, was 9 to 11% for Congress, and yet they always vote for their incumbent. So that was a rough time. 08, everything was beginning to collapse. Obama, I'm sorry, now it became Obama, and so it's one of those things where you take a look at how people feel about Congress. If you ask them, put a microphone on them, walk down the street, they'll say, "I hate everything over there." I think you're going to get a selective. I've been watching selective bipartisan bills coming up on things that don't have to do with Trump, if there's anything that he doesn't put his hands on, like King Kong on the Empire State Building. But there are ways that some congressmen, Democrats and Republicans, are standing together on small issues. And I wish that could grow, but I doubt it will grow. I just think you're going to see polarization. People have to understand, half of this country is praying that the economy collapses and there's a recession. They're praying for that. They need that. They want that. Just go on social media every day on TikTok or on X or on Facebook or forget about Reddit. You're going to see people, just undermining the thoughts. And thoughts, thoughts are real. People say, "Oh, thought doesn't matter." Yeah, it does. That's why people go and buy a certain product. And so we've got half the country still continuing. I think no matter what occurs with the big, beautiful bill next year, the taxes, the only good news out of this is it's not consumer spending, but GDP is growing. Somebody's buying and someone's consuming. And if you strip off, again, we'll turn to Dave Walker, if you strip off the government purchasing in the GDP, I think you still get I think I watched on CNN this morning, you'll still get down to 3% GDP if you strip away the government and other products that affect GDP. But I'd like to hear Dave speak about this. I love having this guy on.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's good to be on. Look, we had a great GDP number for the third quarter. It's only going to be less for the fourth quarter for the reason that you're talking about, but it ain't going to be a recession. The people that talked about a recession were just way off base. With regard to a shutdown in January, I think it would be, in addition to be stupid, it'd be suicidal for the Democrats to have a shutdown at the end of January. The big argument was over the ACA subsidies, the Affordable Care Act subsidies. I don't think that's likely to be the same thing to shut the government down. But I will tell you this, that is a real issue for the midterms. The Republicans are going to have to do something to deal with that issue with regard to the midterms. My personal view is what they'll probably end up doing is they'll probably end up extending it for about a year and a half, but significantly reduce the number of people that are eligible for those subsidies. We really need to engage in a dramatic restructuring of our healthcare system. We're spending way too much money. We get below average results. We've promised too much. We've subsidized too many. There's way too much overhead in that system. That's a subject for a different topic, I think, or different time frame. But so I think, frankly, it's a pox on both their houses. Some would say that the two parties have been taken over by the wingnuts, and that there's no willingness to compromise. There's one exception, I think, and that exception is permitting reform. We clearly need permitting reform as it relates to energy. We clearly need permitting reform as it relates to housing. That's an area where I think you might be able to get some bipartisan agreement. I don't think it's as likely that you're going to get it on immigration reform before a midterm. I don't think it's as likely, although I hope and pray that they would do something with regard to our structural fiscal imbalance. Let the states meet and propose a constitutional amendment, pass a statutory fiscal commission. Those are things that need to be done. I'm hopeful they will, but hope is not a strategy, and I don't think it's going to happen before the midterms.
Well, Dave, let me ask you this. I don't know if you saw it, but Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, he came out with his annual, I can't remember what he calls it, his Festus list. Anyhow, it details government waste. I was reading through this report. Some of this stuff on there it's just grotesque what the government spends money on.
Yeah, I ran the Government Accountability Office for 10 years, and we generated over $100 return for every dollar invested in us. And the three big areas where you can really get a great return are the biennial high risk list that comes out. Number of items on that list have been on it since the early 90s. That tells you something. Secondly, the duplication, overlap, and redundancy report that comes out every year, and then the improper payments report that comes out every year. You just focus on those three things, you can save a lot of money. Frankly, DOGE didn't do what needs to be done, and they didn't go about it the right way. There are things to be learned from DOGE, but they saved a very small fraction of what they claimed. What we really need to do is we need to take a look at what's the federal government doing now as compared to what was envisioned in the Constitution. What are these departments and agencies doing as compared to their authorizing legislation? What are they trying to accomplish? How do you measure success in outcome-based terms? You do that, you're in a position to dramatically streamline, consolidate, and delegate government activities in ways that would have a unbelievably positive impact, both from an economic standpoint as well as a fiscal standpoint, and restore states' rights, which was envisioned by the founders. People forget the states created the federal government, not the other way around. And yet today, the federal government is 8 times bigger as a percentage of the economy than it was when the income tax was put in effect. 8 times bigger. And at that time, Congress controlled 97% of spending. Now they control 24% of spending and going down.
It's astounding because the more you think things are going to change, the more they stay the same. I mean, General, we've got. I'm going to take something that Dave Walker and Joe mentioned. Prices don't go down generally. I mean, the rate of increase, 2.7%, is still on top of a large number. I think a lot of Americans fail to grasp that. And another thing, despite those approval ratings showing Trump at 50 and Democrats in the toilet, and Joe's point about, sort of don't pay attention to that because there's a tendency of Democrats to vote for Democrats, Republicans to vote for Republicans, which is true. But General, with these midterms coming up and Trump at that high approval, it sort of tells me that people like Trump, but they don't want Democratic input because they've seen the damage they can do. How do you like tie all this in together, these numbers with what's happening in the real economy out there?
Oh, I say one thing that's going to happen in 2026 is aspects of the big beautiful bill are going to start kicking in. And right now, just yesterday, President Trump made all sorts of announcements on new shipbuilding, steel, everything. And so what we're going to have is the investments that different countries that whom he dealt with using leverage from the tariffs, they are going to be putting in investments into our country, including Japan, Korea, and other countries. And they're going to be building factories here where we're going to actually get Americans having these jobs, well-paying jobs. Part of the unemployment that's happening now, as Dave mentioned earlier, is government workers. We're having less government workers, but we're also getting more private sector workers who actually contribute to our economy. And then the third thing about that is we're getting rid of a lot of the illegal aliens, and so that is affecting the employment numbers. But that's fine because they're gone, and we're going to be replacing them with American workers. And so all of that is going to start really rising up this spring. And people are going to realize that they have more money in their pockets. The gas prices are going to continue to go down. And energy prices control a lot through our economy. They control the food prices. They control the transportation of everything that we consume comes from those fuel prices. And so things are going to start coming down. And with more wages, higher wages, people are going to start realizing, holy smokes, Trump was right. So I have some confidence in 2026.
General, while you're talking about steel and construction, what did you make of the Trump-class battleship that was announced?
So I did some looking into that, and there's a website called G Captain that and another website on Substack, Commander Salamander. But I looked into that, and I said, okay, he's going to call it a battleship. And traditionally, battleships are much larger, much more displacement. I looked at all the weapons that this ship is supposed to have, yet its propulsion is diesel. I'm thinking myself, it'd be better to have nuclear propulsion, because with all of the weapons it has on it, lasers and the proposed weapons, the lasers and the rail guns, it's going to need a lot of electrical power to make those effective. Again, this is in the planning stage, and I'm no engineer, even though I am. That was my degree at the Air Force Academy. But I'm thinking it's a good start. It's a good concept, and let's hope that it doesn't turn into like the F-35 or the KC-46 and take 20 years to occur. Let's hope that it actually can occur in 2.5 to 3 years, because that's when we're going to need it.
Dave, I saw you chomping to get in there.
Yeah, I'm on the Defense Business Board, and obviously having run GAO for 10 years, we did a lot of work with regard to Defense Department acquisitions. And I hate to tell you, but shipbuilding has a terrible track record with regard to cost, quality, and performance. We don't have enough competition in that industry. We've only really got a couple of different companies that can even build anything. I'm concerned about building these things because they're going to be incredibly expensive. I don't think it's going to be possible to get them done within the time frame they're talking about. Plus, with total visibility of the battlefield from space, the only thing you can't see is what's underwater. And as the general will probably remember, what the Air Force calls ships, targets.
That's right. That's right. Right now, we have the clear advantage in submarines. And quite honestly, that's probably what we should be investing in. But that is for.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer over here, but I love what Trump did. I think that was a signal to China more than anything. 25 battleships, electric rail guns, the whole bit. He's pushing another talk to build a couple of them. But I've lived in Virginia Beach, and I live here in Connecticut where they build the subs. And Trump
Okay.
said something so good, it kind of ties in what Dave was speaking about. And the corporations are getting the money to build these things, that they're going to the shipyards or even the jets and the planes that Trump is ordering. And he really took their heads off, these CEOs, that they're buying back stock, making 30, 40, $50 million paychecks, and they can't get things delivered. So Trump was really addressing speed, not just because he's only going to be the president for 3 more years, but he was addressing speed and the slow manufacturing of Pratt Whitney's across the street from me here. We're in Connecticut. We build nothing here but things to kill people, including the insurance companies, okay? But
Arsenal of democracy.
right? How are we going to deliver these things quickly? And also, I'm going to beat Trump up a little bit, not on his dreams and his plans, but on the reality that we're not going to create all these human jobs when we build $18 trillion worth of factories in America. Automation, AI, the construction may be human, but how long does that become? How much of that becomes human jobs long term? Again, this is what the left would do, and I'm surrounded by them, so I kind of know how they think, and they want to be, they want to be negative. And the truth is, not all of this is going to turn into booms of jobs. It just can't. Not with modern factories and AI that's coming, but it will stimulate the economy. It will make products. There will be growth. GDP will climb because of it, but not everything is going to turn into jobs. And this is the other side that the lefties that live around me talk about. Who's going to pick, the strawberries? Are Americans going to pick strawberries? So again, illegals being shipped out aren't going to translate to high-paying jobs. The left isn't wrong on all this. They just want to look at the negative of it. But if you take both sides and look at it, there will be growth. The best thing is, but we need to get these jets and these jetliners that are being purchased by Saudi Arabia and everyone to be able to get them out quicker. This is where Dave is talking about regulation, changing the way regulation is done and the delivery of products. But then again, we've got high tech, the subs that are made here, and some of my friends work on them. These things are just incomprehensible, the type of things that have to go into a submarine versus a battleship. But we're going to, I believe, have growth, and the economy is going to grow. People are going to continue to be employed. It won't be the magic Trump likes to push, and God bless him for being that salesman. But I do think we're on the right path. And I said it last week on this program that Trump took a race car going the wrong way, and he spun it around, burned rubber like you see in the movies, and took off the other way without losing a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
And I think it's positive, but not everything is going to translate to quick turnaround. I feel it'll be similar to Reagan in 82, 83, 84. Not that bad, because we're not in that bad of a shape, but it's going to take time. We're not going to get there quickly. And my friends in the White House hear me, they're going to not answer my phone anymore.
Joe, you brought up the thing about illegal immigration. 2 million people have self-deported. And Dave Walker, I was going to ask you this. The administration upped the bribe, if you will, from $1,000 to $3,000 during the holiday season if there would be more self-deportations. What'd you make of that idea?
Well, first, let me mention that Joe's in a deep blue state and the left is worried about having to cut their own grass. But other than that, on the issue,
I'm surrounded.
on the issue you talk about, that actually can be cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, that can be cost effective. On the other hand, some of the other things that the administration is talking about are not cost effective. I get texts every day. Respond so you can get your $2,000 refund check. What the hell are we giving $2,000 refund checks to Americans for when we're running a $1.8 trillion deficit, and when the Supreme Court may rule some of these tariffs unconstitutional? I mean, but yeah. I think that's one that actually could be cost effective.
General, I got to ask you this, as a follow-up. Okay, so the illegal immigration thing, widespread support. Americans do not want to go back to open borders. Okay, I mean, it's clearly evident. You haven't heard a lot about ICE lately either, have you? crime going down. ICE is not in the news, but it's been sort of replaced by Venezuela. And General, I have to ask you this. What was that tanker captain, or what is that tanker captain thinking that it can evade the U.S. military? I mean, what's going on there?
Okay, that is very funny. So I guess we seized the first tanker on the 10th of December, the second one just this past Saturday, which is the 20th. We have a third one that the news says we are pursuing, but it's not like it's, it's not like a cop chasing a car on the highway. We can take it anytime we want to. It's just that we're taking our time. And I believe that the administration is just making sure that they have the proper warrants and everything. Matter of fact, I've heard, talking with some friends just before we started recording, that they might seize the ship today, or they might already have done it. Again, anybody on this earth who thinks that they can take a super tanker and evade by turning off the transponder and turning off the lights, they have no idea how the world works. We can take out small speedboats. We can certainly find that super tanker.
Well, look what we did. The nuclear facility in Iran. I mean, it's just Trump was sort of laughing it off. He was giving a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, and there's some reporter asking him the question. He's like, yeah, well, we're in pursuit. I mean, eventually they'll come to their senses there. I mean, he just has this way of compartmentalizing and creating. I've been around him before at Mar-a-Lago, and the guy is funny. I mean, he'll crack a joke. He'll especially this time of year. It's just something else. All right, Joe, I want to turn to you on something, back to these numbers, and it is a serious point we need to think about here, because, and Speaker Johnson's warned about this, if the Democrats win the midterms November 2026, I think the probability of impeachment is super high. Is that going to be enough to motivate the Republicans, or is it going to be, what else is going to have to do to get them out, Joe?
Well, we talked about another subject that's on our agenda today, kind of coincides with this, and that's the crazies on the right that are fighting each other now. I brought that up a couple weeks ago. It's metastasized even worse this morning. Fuentes and Megyn Kelly and Tucker and Candace, and so there's all this nonsense trying to be the king of the hill or whatever going on with Israel, Jews, this and that, the whole nine yards. That's got to get cleared out of the way so we can focus on running. And Republicans have been very quiet because Trump is really running Congress. And this is why people say, well, they're not doing anything. Well, they're standing in line and waiting to see what's next with Mike Johnson. And there's really some discipline. They're acting like Democrats, where they don't talk a lot and just the leaders speak. People haven't noticed that either. So I think something Trump said about the insurance companies, to get back to that and tie it in here, he said he would like to meet, when he spoke with the pharmaceutical industry last week in the Oval Office, that he would like to meet with the big insurance companies, outside the window over here in Hartford, Connecticut. And I think that's going to be happening soon, so that they can do something with the subsidies. I still feel, as Dave said, and I've said it a few times here, that the subsidies will be extended for some, not for 3 years and not for everyone, but Trump knows he has to go that way. He's not going to ditch not giving some subsidies, him and Mike Johnson, but they need the insurance companies in there. Some big announcement, some big shindig in the Oval Office where all the Aetna and United Healthcare CEOs, they all stand up and they say, we're going to do this, like Big Pharma did. At that point, it'll give time for Congress next year to act, and then they'll continue these subsidies. So the insurance cost, pharma may come down, Big Pharma, because we saw them, but the insurance costs, as Dave mentioned earlier, are killing people. They can't survive paying these premiums, and they won't be able to. Not everyone, but I believe if Obamacare gets away with it, then the other plans can get away with increasing costs or prices.
Dave, you're just outside D.C. there. How do you see this thing with Congress, impeachment, healthcare, like Joe was talking about?
Well, I've said what I think is likely to happen with regard to the ACA subsidies. But with regard to impeachment, what's new? They already impeached him twice. I mean,
right.
You're not going to remove him, okay? I mean, there's no way you're going to get a 2/3 vote in the Senate. Obviously, it'd be good for the Republicans to maintain control. But with regard to insurance prices, I just got my insurance bills for next year. My homeowner's insurance is up 40%. My auto insurance has doubled. And I
Mhm.
can assure you I am following up on those things to ask them questions and to provide some accountability. So I think it's a good idea for the president to try to bring the insurance people in, but it's not just health insurance. It's much broader than that.
Well, part of the issue, and again, you and Joe have similar ideas on the ACA. Yours was 1.5 years. Joe's point about people reducing the income threshold. I agree with both of you. I think something like that is going to happen. But again, part of this quote affordability thing that's been bandied about, a lot of it's the service economy. I mean, go out and try to book an airline ticket right now. Oof, wow, super expensive. And you mentioned insurance. Well, I tell you what, in Florida, we had massive hits the last 2 years. 2026, not so bad because we don't have any hurricanes down there this year. But General, I tie it back to you now. There's no way he's going to be impeached in the Senate. I mean, he'll be convicted in the Senate, but these House members, they're really to the left, and they're going further to the left. And their constituencies are going to want to see a noose around Trump's neck. So, I mean, if Republicans go into 2026, I agree with Dave and Joe. They have to resolve something on this healthcare thing because otherwise it's just going to be an anvil around their neck. And the big, beautiful bill will kick in. Okay, that's great. And that's, look, Wall Street economists are saying we could have 3% GDP growth next year. So, General, if you were advising the Trump administration, yes, great things in 2025, but tie this into these midterms for me and give them some advice.
As you said, the one noose that's going to be around the neck, the albatross, is going to be the health insurance. As Dave mentioned, all the insurances are going up, but health insurance is the thing that is really sticking when the Democrats start talking about or trying to blame everything on the GOP. And so right now, the Republican-led Congress and Senate are still throwing out ideas and trying to make some things happen. But they have to do it at a pace where it seems that the Democrats are obstructionists. So they have to come up with ideas and make those ideas understandable by the layman, so that the average American could go, yeah, that's a good idea. That will bring our healthcare costs down. And then if the Democrats oppose it, then they will be the bad guys come midterms.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point there. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Start watching CNN. I've been watching it for weeks now. Not all the time because I can't stomach all of it, but during the newscasts, they are very objective. They're moving to the center in telling the truth, which is telling me they're looking to move the Democrat Party little by little to co-opt some of the issues that the president and the Republicans are doing, because the Democrats are great at this, stealing the idea and trying to co-opt it. They're not as rabid as they were. I mean, it was horrible. And so I believe, and I've watched, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm like, am I watching CNN? So when you see the media go, the talking points of the Democrat Party and the media start moving, they're not giving Trump huge credit, but they're giving him where it's due. They're being more objective than I have seen CNN in 10 years. And that's telling me the narratives of the Democrat Party, which is CNN and Washington Post, New York Times, that they are moving towards the center to not be so crazy, because they can't help their own party, the Democrats, because they're nuts. So they're leading the way with trying to be objective. And I'm trying to talk here, it's kind of babbling, but I could not believe CNN as being that objective whatsoever on 5 or 6 newscasts that I watched. There was gotcha lies and pushes. They got used to Trump's a little bit, always using things much more. We got 500 ships. No, there's only 300. But they're not doing that. And that's telling me that the media is trying to maybe like a rodeo, break this horse of the crazy Democrats. It's their party. I know they represent Democrats, but they're doing it. This is very important because the psyche of the public is not so red meat anymore.
CBS is coming to the center as well.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, Joe. It's not just CNN, it's CBS, it's ABC, and the executives at these networks that are controlling this stuff, they've seen the outcome of it, and it's not pretty. When look, these democratic policies, I think the word I used in here, restorative justice. I mean, Dave Walker, law-abiding Americans don't want to hear crap like that. They want to hear that we have cops on the streets, that we have, look at the military coming into Memphis, the success they had there, Washington, D.C. I mean, Americans don't want to hear this stuff about letting criminals go and the transgenderism, this far left-wing stuff about men playing high school women's sports and college sports. Dave Walker, talk to me about that, because the fringe doesn't seem to be winning anymore.
Well, first, I agree with Joe that CNN, at a minimum, is starting to move back to the center. As I said before, the energy in the Democratic Party is on the far left, and that's obviously not been productive for their party. You have to keep in mind, as I learned in college with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which came right after Pavlov's dog or something like that. That the most fundamental thing that people care about is self-preservation. And that has to do with safety and security and privacy and all these kinds of issues that are very fundamental, which is very important and will always be important to the American people.
General, you want to get in on that one? I see.
Oh yes. Uh, it's sort of funny. This weekend, Dave Chappelle, the comedian, had a new show on Netflix. I watched it, and he started talking about Trump sending the National Guard into D.C., which is Dave Chappelle's hometown, and everyone in the audience thought that he was going to wisecrack on President Trump, and he was setting it up that way. And then all of a sudden, he turned it around and said, "But all of a sudden, I don't see people doing number twos on the street. I don't see any crime." And he said, "Okay, maybe it's not so bad." And it sort of shocked the audience because they wanted him to badmouth Trump, but he didn't. And same thing later in that show. What we were talking about earlier, some of the crazy things that the Democrats are doing. He started setting up a joke saying he did a comedy show in Saudi Arabia, and people were bad mouthing him about it. But he said, "I felt more freedom of speech there in Saudi Arabia than I did in the United States."
Wow.
And everyone was thinking that he was going to also say something bad about Trump.
Bill Maher also. So you're seeing the left comedians and you're seeing the left media start to move to objective center because they're trying to unhijack their party from the crazy lefties.
Yep, and so then Chappelle said, "Yeah, it's because when I made jokes about transgenders in the United States, they tried to kill me. We're out here in Saudi Arabia, everybody laughed. It killed." And so again, he is joking on how crazy the left is getting.
Dave, I want to come back to you on that along the lines of what they're talking about. Artists who are canceling shows at the Kennedy Center because it's now the Trump Kennedy Center. I mean, it seems to me that this Trump derangement syndrome stuff it's still there. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, seriously.
Well, two things. Number one, a number of artists have canceled appearances in New York City because of the election of Mandani. Okay. So this is not just the Kennedy Center. Secondly, I'll also say that, in my opinion, it's inappropriate to change the name of the Kennedy Center to add Trump's name while he's alive. That is not something you normally do. You don't put people's names on something while they're still alive. I actually, I think it's, I don't think it's appropriate that he changed the name of the Kennedy Center to add his name at this point in time. And frankly, one of the concerns that I have, while Trump is accomplishing a lot, and I'm a results-oriented person, I look for results. That's what I'm looking for. He's trying to attach his name to too much. He's trying to personalize. I mean, this new category of battleship, which isn't a battleship, by the way, and I've already told you I have concerns about it, is the Trump class, okay? I mean, I see him on TV selling watches. I mean, come on. He's the president of the United States. I mean,
It does. You get that little cringe in you sometimes. Say, boy, I really like this guy. He's doing a great job. God, thank God he's there. But the Democrats, then you see this stuff. Oh God, does he have to?
No, I know. I mean,
the word you're looking for, Dave, is over the top.
Yeah.
Don't forget the left, and it's a lot of it's because what the left did during Biden years is they tore down statues, renamed buildings.
I know.
And he considers that he was shot in the head and he survived and Kennedy didn't. So that's his logic. But a lot of it's to get back. A lot of it's for shtick. And,
no, I know.
That is nauseating to those. You're in the middle, but on the left, it is nauseating, and I can see that. But I sat there, as a lot of us did on the right, and watched so much happening in this country, renaming and statues and everything we can think of. And go down the laundry list, and you'll get it. And it was just wrong. And Columbus Day, changing Columbus.
Oh no, I know. Yeah.
So in other words, it's kind of like a rebalancing. It's shtick, but you can bet when the next Democrat president comes in, that name Trump is coming off.
Just so you know, over the top is more than one word, but I got you.
But all of us are old enough to remember when National Airport was changed to Reagan Airport.
Oh yeah.
And people said, "I'll never ever call it Reagan Airport." And nowadays, nobody calls it National anymore. It'll die down after a while.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about all the accolades for the president and named on a building, off a building. Shocking news. Hunter Biden, who we rarely agree on anything on this show, Joe and I have talked about for 6 years, came out and said his pop was wrong on Afghanistan withdrawal. Generally said we lost troops. We lost service members because of that. And he was wrong at the border. General, again, I'm throwing a little humor in this, but is hell freezing over? What's going on here?
Well, Hunter is no longer getting people buying his paintings for $500,000 anymore, and so now he has to find a way to keep his name in the news. and just like Karine Jean-Pierre all of a sudden said, "Oh yeah, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm an independent, and I'm gonna write a book about the White House." They have to find ways to keep relevant, but they will not be relevant. No one is going to pay any attention to Hunter. I agree with his assessments, but he's only saying it because he wants to try to remain relevant.
He didn't say that his dad. He didn't say that his dad made a mistake pardoning him, though.
No, of course.
I got to say something. Hunter is talented. He should have his own TV show, but Hollywood wants nothing to do with Biden anymore, or Hunter would. He's talented. Whether you like what he says or not, I've watched his interviews. Forget about over the top. They're so biting. They represent the left, and yet they won't put him on. They won't give him a leg up anymore because they want to forget Biden, forget Kamala. She's fighting to stay in there. So it's too bad, but he should land himself a podcast or something because he is funny as hell. He really is.
Well, go ahead, Dave, please.
No, go. You were going to ask.
No, I was going to direct it. I was going to direct this. Speaking of funny, think about this. Just a year ago, Tim Walz was the vice presidential candidate. Think about that, folks. Now, a bill is being introduced in Congress, Dave Walker, called the Walz Fraud Bill. When I heard that, I thought Dave Walker's going to have a comment on that on the show today, because I don't know anyone that hates waste, fraud, and abuse more than Dave Walker. Your platform, sir.
Yeah, I do, and we've got way too much of it. And Walsh, I can't remember what he called himself, but it wasn't complimentary. And he's
knucklehead.
Knucklehead, right? Okay, he's a case. I will say this, that if the Democrats want a chance to win the presidency in 2028, they're going to have to nominate a governor from a red or purple state. If they don't nominate a governor from a red or purple state, they're done. And I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying, so the people that are getting all the publicity now are people that are left and have little chance of ever becoming president of the United States.
And along those thoughts,
I'd like to see. I'd like to see a woman. Really, I don't mean because she's a woman. I'd like to see a real woman like Condoleezza Rice on the left come out like Tulsi Gabbard was. Or she's Republican, but the reality she was always a Democrat. If they could find a woman that could defeat Newsom and the rest of it, and not be Kamala, someone with sensibility, they could co-opt it. They still have more than half the country that turns out. Look what Kamala got for a turnout with horrible race with all the money in the world. So if they had somebody that's, I would say, moderate, and they co-opt a lot of the Trump policies and just claim them as their own and remove his name and are shrewd and smart about it, don't count that party out. It could turn on a dime. If the right person steps out of either Hollywood or big business, someone with a lot of class and respect, it exists. Whether they'd want to step into the cesspool of the left is another story.
well, let me give you three names, Dave Walker, that you just mentioned. Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Governor Beshear of my original home state of Kentucky, Governor Whitmer of Michigan. General, those are three. I know, but
Two out of three ain't bad.
compared to the two front runners right now.
Right.
If I said the two front runners, you would be thinking Kamala Harris, who is leading in the pack right now, Gavin Newsom, who is a close second, and for God help us, J.D. Pritzker of the state of Illinois. I mean, I'll take the first three over the latter three any day of the week.
Mark, you're right about Shapiro. You're right about Shapiro, except he's Jewish. And the left, the crazy left that hate Israel, and he's very close. I think he served in the IDF. They'll never let him get a shot. That's probably the greatest candidate they have. Very poised, very sharp. And now because he's Jewish, who could believe this world we're living in? 4 years ago, who could believe that the anti-Semitism would be so strong on the left? And it's also coming from the right.
Yeah, General, I want your thoughts on those candidates, and then I do want to take that Israel anti-Semitic issue off.
So, out of all of them, Shapiro would be my first choice, even though I don't want the Democrats to take over.
Of course.
Again. But again, like Joe said, the left is starting to become not just anti-Semitic, but fiercely anti-Semitic and not caring if anybody knows it, and they're using it as a badge of their flag of the Democrats. I can't even believe it now. And unfortunately, we have Jews in New York and California who are still voting for them. But that's one thing. Now, Beshear, that could happen, okay, because he'll bring the Southern mentality of common sense into things, and will not let things go totally crazy to the left. Now, Whitmer, no, I'm sorry, but I've seen some of the things she's done in Michigan and what she's letting going on there, especially in Dearborn and such, and I am not a fan.
Well, I think that's a fair point. And Dave Walker, Andy Beshear in Kentucky, a state with a Republican supermajority in its House and Senate, is sitting here in a deep red state with a 60% approval rating. He seems to me like a Dave Walker type Democrat. I mean, does he have any type shot at all, in your opinion?
I think he's the best of the three. And I noticed that Joe didn't mention OAC. You know, she's a woman.
I said someone with class.
She serves a good drink.
But they don't count out our governor here in Connecticut, Ed Lamont. He's running for governor again next year.
I know, and he'll win.
And he will. He'll win in Connecticut. But he is, and he's likable. He's a little goofy. He's likable. He's got a lot of money, and he could be on a ticket, because I thought when he ran for governor again, he wants to be on a ticket for something else, because he's older. But
I know
Lamont out.
I know Ned, and he's done a better job than a lot of people thought he would do.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So a couple minutes left, guys, and I want to talk on a couple things. And I do want to address this because it's really been bugging me. This anti-Semitism coming out of the right. It's just, I know it's what, as the general said, it's almost standard policy on the Democrats, but this really bugs me. This anti-Semitism coming from the right. And it was on full display at that Turning Point USA convention. Around the horn, real quick. I just feel this has no place in our party whatsoever. Joe, start with you.
I fly the flag of Israel in my house, right in West Hartford Center, most Jewish town in Connecticut. And I call them the good Jews and the bad Jews, and they're fighting. They got to fight each other, and they're not for standing up, because the lefties, 70% of Democrats vote, Jewish Americans vote Democrat, and so it's kind of confusing. I don't know what the answer is going to be. The right has always had some. It wasn't white supremacy. It's just people don't like Jews. When I run from West Hartford for office, people kind of look at me that aren't Jewish. And they're like, why? My friends are all Jewish. I was raised in a Jewish town, Jewish high school, predominantly Jewish. And yet, who could believe that we were here right now on the left as well as on the right? I don't know what the answer is going to be. I call them the good Jews, the Republicans that love Israel, but also love America, and they're American. They got their own thing to do. Something's got to happen in that voter bloc amongst themselves, because they're under siege. The hate is turning much clearly towards violence, and I don't know if the anti-Semitism is going to turn as bad as the American Jews have always feared, but I think it is, and they need to do something.
Yeah,
Dave,
it's outrageous. It's unacceptable. We're all God's children. I was on a podcast yesterday from Sydney. This is getting to be a problem on a global basis. We all know what happened in Australia a week ago Saturday. I'm very concerned about it, and those are my thoughts.
General?
Look, it has already turned violent. We saw what happened in Australia, Bondi Beach. We've had our federal agents already intercepting and arresting terrorists who are planning on attacks here in the United States. Now, of all the folks on the right who are turning on all this, I don't know what to say about Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, but Tucker, I see something else, because all of a sudden he is being, I think it's a money thing. He's funded very, very well by the Qataris, and they have a lot of money to give out, because I thought it was really, really strange for him to all of a sudden turn so crazy. But people do certain things for money, and I think that's what's happening there.
Yeah, and I want to mention one other thing, and then I'm going to give each of your final minute to comment on 2026. Terrible news coming out about former Senator Ben Sasse, stage 4 terminal cancer. Like him or not like him, that we wish him and his family all the best over the holidays. All right, a minute left each, guys. I'm going to start, Joe, with you, Dave, and then the general to close it out. 2026, your thoughts.
Republicans keep the House and the Senate. The economy is booming beyond comprehension. The left goes more crazy because they're getting richer, and they hate Trump for it. And they continue. They call him Hitler, and this is basically a fascist prosperity.
Dave?
I think the economy will grow, and I think that if the Republicans do something to deal with health care, at least on a temporary basis with regard to the ACA subsidies, they can retain the House. I think they will retain the Senate. But I'm still very concerned that we need to start dealing with the disease, and that is our financial imbalance and the impending insolvency of Social Security and Medicare. That may not end up happening until after the midterms. The sooner the better. But that's essential if we want our future to be better than our past over time.
No question. General, to you.
And to piggyback, as long as the Republicans come up with some sort of solution that is palatable and understandable by the average American with health insurance, we will definitely keep the House and Senate in 2026. Also, there's something that I've been doing lately over the last month or so, is watching videos of town meetings, city council meetings and such, and watching all the Black and Hispanic people go in there and raise heck to the Democrats who are running the town. Well, whether it has to do with illegal aliens or taxes or anything. And a lot of them are going to be shifting red. And so that gives me hope.
Yeah, and I want to echo all three of you, what you said. I think there's a very good chance that despite all the negative media, the Russia-Ukraine situation could get resolved in 2026. The Venezuela situation could get resolved. If you have 3% growth in the economy and solve the healthcare issue, I think there's a damn good chance Republicans, if they message correctly, could end up keeping the House. Gentlemen, it has been an unbelievable pleasure. Joe, thank you for co-hosting. The Walker Brothers, thank you for joining me here on this holiday show. It has been unbelievably a great experience having all of you on. And folks from Patriot TV, we wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we will see you in 2026.